What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and your dreams is a wall you built yourself? And what if I said you have the power to break it down? Today, right now, we live in a world filled with invisible limits, some created by society, some imposed by others, but most by ourselves. These limits whisper to us, you can't, you're not ready, stay safe. But real growth begins where our comfort ends. It's time to challenge those boundaries, defy those odds and rise beyond what we thought was possible. It's time to break the limits. Limits aren't always obvious. Sometimes they aren't towering fences or locked doors, but quiet whispers in our minds, subtle thoughts that tell us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. And these are the invisible walls that keep us trapped in a version of ourselves that feels safe but unfulfilled. The truth is, most of the limits we believe were never really there to begin with. They were built slowly over time through rejection, fear, criticism and past mistakes. They disguise themselves as logic, caution or realism, but they are in reality the chains of self-doubt. To break the limits, the first and most crucial step is to recognize where they exist. Think about the things you've talked yourself out of, opportunities you didn't pursue, risks you didn't take, goals you left on the shelf, not because they were impossible, but because something in you said, I can't. That voice doesn't belong to your potential, it belongs to your fear. And fear loves comfort. It wants you to stay in the same routine, make the same choices, live the same day over and over again because at least there you're safe. But safe isn't the same as satisfied. It's not the same as fulfilled. Sometimes we inherit limits from others. Maybe someone once told you you'd never make it or you weren't enough, and even though it was their voice, it became part of your inner dialogue. Those words stuck. They became bricks in the wall you didn't even know you were building. That's why identifying these walls is so important, because you can't break what you can't see. Self-awareness is the light that reveals where your limits hide. It allows you to step back and ask, is this belief serving me or stopping me? Am I making this decision based on who I am or who I've been told I am? When you become conscious of your internal barriers, you reclaim your power. You stop being a prisoner of past stories and start becoming the author of new ones. Every limit starts as a thought, and every breakthrough starts by challenging that thought. Failure has been misunderstood for far too long. We grow up fearing it, avoiding it, doing everything we can to prevent it, as if it's some final stamp of who we are. But failure is not the opposite of success, it's a critical part of it. Every person who has achieved anything meaningful has failed, and not just once, but over and over and over again. The difference is they didn't let it define them, they let it refine them. When you redefine failure, you take away its power to paralyze you. Instead of seeing it as a dead end, you begin to see it as data, a reflection of what didn't work, not who you are. It becomes a mirror, not a label. It tells you where to improve, where to shift, where to go next. Every stumble, every mistake, every no is simply a redirection guiding you closer to the version of yourself that's capable of breaking through the next barrier. The fear of failure is often more damaging than failure itself. It convinces you to play small, to lower your standards, to avoid risk. It whispers lies like a don't try, you'll just embarrass yourself, or if you fail, people will see you as weak. But the truth is, the only way to grow is to risk falling. Children fall hundreds of times when learning to walk, but they don't give up. They don't attach shame to the process. They get up again and again until balance becomes second nature. Somewhere along the way, we lose that courage. We start to care too much about appearances, about judgment, about perfection. But breaking limits means letting go of that fear. It means understanding that the pursuit of excellence will always include moments of discomfort, of defeat, of doubt. And those moments are not setbacks, they're setups for your next level. Every failure holds a lesson. Every failure is a test of how badly you want it. If you can learn to see failure not as an enemy but as a teacher, you become unstoppable. Because the ones who keep going even after falling are the ones who eventually rise the highest. One of the biggest myths we tell ourselves is that we have to be completely ready before we start. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect version of ourselves to show up before taking the leap. But the truth is that moment rarely comes. If you wait to feel completely prepared, you'll wait forever. Progress doesn't come from perfection, it comes from motion. Taking action before you feel ready is one of the boldest ways to break through your limits. because it forces you to grow into the person you need to be. Readiness is often an illusion, a comfort zone dressed in productivity. We tell ourselves we're still researching, still planning, still getting our ducks in a row, but what we're really doing is stalling. We're afraid. We're afraid of being seen trying and failing. We're afraid of the gap between our vision and our current skill set. Before. But here's the truth, action is what builds capability, you don't get confident. And then you act, and through action you become confident. You don't wait until the fear disappears, you move forward with the fear, and in doing so you weaken its grip. Think of the times in your life when you were thrown into something unprepared. Maybe it was a job, a presentation, a conversation that caught you off guard, and yet somehow you figured it out. That's because humans are adaptive, we learn quickly when we're immersed. When the pressure is real, the learning is rapid. Waiting for certainty or permission is just another way we keep ourselves from stepping into our potential. Every great success story began with a moment of uncertainty, a decision to start despite the unknown. Those who achieve greatness don't have all the answers at the beginning. They just begin, they choose to move, to learn along the way, to build momentum brick by brick. And in doing so, they become more than they ever imagined. Waiting might feel safe, but it keeps you stagnant. Starting, even when it's messy, is what moves you forward. The people you surround yourself with shape the person you become more than you might realize. Their mindset, energy and beliefs influence your own, often subtly, sometimes powerfully. If you spend time around those who constantly complain, make excuses or settle for less, it becomes harder to push yourself beyond your limits. Not because you're incapable, but because you're subconsciously being trained to believe that aiming higher is unnecessary, unrealistic or even foolish. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with people who challenge themselves, dream boldly and keep growing, that energy begins to affect you too. Their courage gives you courage, their vision expands your own. We are all mirrors to each other. The people in your inner circle reflect what's possible and sometimes what's not. That's why it's important to choose your environment as intentionally as you choose your goals. You need people who not only support your dreams but stretch your perspective. People who don't flinch when you talk about doing big things. People who don't see your ambition as arrogance but as a signal that you're alive with purpose. Growth-minded individuals don't always agree with you, and that's a good thing. They'll challenge your excuses, ask the hard questions and remind you of your potential when you forget it. They won't let you shrink to fit into comfort zones. Being around people like that makes you uncomfortable sometimes. But in the best way, it wakes you up, it makes you want to level up. That kind of discomfort is the seed of transformation. The truth is, no one breaks their limits alone. Even the most successful self-driven people have mentors, coaches or peers who push them. Iron sharpens iron, sharpens iron. So if you're serious about breaking your own limits, take a hard look at who you're surrounding yourself with. Are they building you or draining you or draining you? Are they pushing you or pacifying you? You don't need people who clap for your comfort. You need people who celebrate your growth, even when it's hard. And when you find those people, hold on to them. Because in their presence, your limits start to lose their power. Setbacks are inevitable. No journey worth taking is a straight line, and no dream worth chasing comes without resistance. But what separates those who break through limits from those who stay stuck isn't the presence of struggle, it's how they respond to it. When life pushes you down, you have a choice. You can see the setback as the end, or you can use it as a stepping stone to something greater. The people who rise the highest aren't the ones who avoid hardship, they're the ones who transform it. Every setback holds a lesson, but that lesson is only revealed when you choose to face it, not run from it. Pain has a way of teaching us what comfort never could. It sharpens our perspective, strengthens our character and deepens our… In fact, many of the most resilient people you'll ever meet didn't become that way because life was easy. They became that way because life was hard, and they refused to let the hard times define them. They didn't just survive their setbacks, they grew through… There's something powerful that happens when you flip the script on failure and disappointment. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this preparing me for? You reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming the architect of your growth. That shift in mindset is what turns obstacles into opportunities. It's what allows pain to become purpose. We tend to believe that success is about avoiding the fall, but true greatness is found in how you rise after you've hit the ground. Every scar you carry, every tear you shed, every moment you wanted to give up but didn't, those aren't signs of weakness, they're proof of strength. They are markers on the path that show you've been through something and kept going. When you look back, you'll often see that the very things that tried to break you were the same things that built you. The struggle didn't stop you, it shaped you. And that shape is the foundation for breaking every limit that once stood in your way. Most people are not held back by a lack of talent or resources, but by a lack of belief. They shrink their dreams to fit the limits of their current circumstances instead of expanding their mindset to match the size of their potential. But the truth is, no one ever achieved greatness by playing small. If your dreams don't scare you a little or even a lot, they're probably not big enough. Believing bigger is not about arrogance, it's about stepping into the fullness of who you are and daring to want more for yourself unapologetically. Dreaming wildly is not just for the lucky or the gifted, it's for the brave. It's for the ones who choose not to settle, who refuse to be boxed in by fear, judgment or past failure. When you believe bigger to see beyond your current reality, you stop asking, what if it goes wrong? And start asking, what if it works? That shift in mindset creates momentum. It opens doors you never even noticed before. It makes you more willing to take the kind of bold action that transforms your life. The world has always been changed by people who were bold enough to imagine something that didn't exist yet. The greatest ideas, inventions and revolutions all started with someone who dared to believe in the impossible. That same power lives in you, but it can only be activated when you give yourself permission to dream without limits, to picture yourself succeeding, thriving, living a life that excites you. And when you start to believe that you are worthy of that life, you start to move differently. You show up with purpose. You pursue your goals with fire, you don't wait for someone to give you a green light, you become the green light. Believing bigger isn't about ignoring reality, it's about refusing to be ruled by it. It's choosing vision over… It's saying, I know what I see around me, but I also know what I see within me. And when you tap into that belief, when you hold on to that wild dream, you begin to move in ways that make the impossible inevitable. So now the question is, what will you do with this? Will you let these words pass through you like another motivational moment, or will you make a move that changes everything? The time for waiting is over, the time for doubt is done. This is your moment to stand up, look those limits in the face and break them. Not tomorrow, not when it feels easier, now. Start small if you have to, but start, take the risk. Send the message. Say yes to the thing that scares you, say no to what no longer serves you. Choose the harder path if it leads to your… Build the life that's been living in your imagination and give it roots in the real world. You don't need to be perfect, you don't need to have it all figured out, you just need to be brave enough to begin. And once you do, everything changes. Break the limits and become the version of you that's been waiting on the other